What's going on, guys? Joey Franzo with Flex Training Systems here, and today I wanted to talk to you guys about a recent question that I was asked. Well, it's not really a question, it's just kind of a scenario that came up with a couple of clients, two of which are doing the exact same meet. I mean, this has come up many times before, and I actually thought I already did a video on this, but I guess I didn't. I'm almost positive I did a Snapchat story on it, but regardless, if you saw by the title of this video, we're going to talk about why it is like absolutely imperative that you do not diet into a competition. Keyword is diet. You can still cut weight. But if you are dieting, meaning you are in a caloric deficit leading into a competition, bad things are going to happen. I've seen this many times with many different people. Years ago, when I was less informed, I learned very quickly not to do such a thing. But essentially, I'm going to go through why, like specifically why, and maybe share a little bit of how I like to do things over here at Flex Training Systems. Anyway, typically when you taper for a powerlifting meet, let's just use you have 8 weeks, right? So you have 3 weeks of build up where you're trying to, build your work capacity, get in shape, essentially. And you have another 3 weeks where you are going a little bit heavier, doing a little bit less volume overall, but you're getting more specific for what you're going to do in competition, and that's when you, it's really, that it'd be week 6, it'd be like your last chance to kind of push for any type of, adaptation, and then those last 2 weeks, you're really going to pull back. Your volume is going to be much lower. You're still practicing the movements frequently. You're in the home stretch, and then that final week, you hit your little taper workouts, and then that's it. You're gonna prime the body to compete, and depending on whether you're male, female, how good your recovery is, whatever, many other factors, you may do 1 taper workout, you may do 2 taper workouts, you might do 4 taper workouts. It just depends on the person. So leading into that competition, let's say you're dieting this whole time, right? Just to make it simple, you're dieting the entire 8 weeks. Let's say you're losing a pound a week, right? And let's say you're doing okay the first 3 weeks, which makes sense because your volume is really high. And then, going into the next weeks, your volume is a little bit less. And if you're dieting during this part, you may or may not see a peak in strength. So typically when you drop your volume at any point during a prep, a little bit of super compensation happens. You recover a little bit better, and you start to see a little bit of, you might hit a PR the first week you do that, or the second week, whatever. If you're dieting during this point, you're not fueling your body enough to build new muscle, and there's a chance that you might not peak out of it. Your weight might be dropping, but you're not gonna see any little progress. And then those final 2 weeks, when you're tapering down, getting ready for competition, your volume is lower than ever. We're still training heavy to try to hold on to those adaptations, but your volume is lower than ever. So going into the meet, if you're dieting, your body, okay, so muscle is very metabolically demanding, meaning, if you don't give your body a reason to keep the progress that you've made, even if you're not dieting, you're going to lose it, right? But dieting can exacerbate this process. So if you're dieting leading into a competition, not only is your volume lower, but especially that last week, you're in a deficit and you're not hitting the lifts as frequently. So you're not giving your body a reason to hold on to, the adaptations you've made. Now, if you're doing this gradually over time, leading into a meet, you're probably not going to have your best meet, but you're probably not going to be too far off from where you were in training. Now, if you try to do this the last 2 weeks, all of a sudden, whatever you hit 5 weeks out, 4 weeks out for PRs, just throw that out the window, because it's not happening. It's absolutely not happening, especially if you've actually lost tissue. This is all in the context of a drug-free lifter. If you're on steroids or something, then I don't even know. You're probably going to hold all your muscle and fucking PR all your lifts. But, you know, in the context of a drugs-free lifter, tapering down for competition leading into a meet, if you're dieting during that, like, very crucial process where you're supposed to be getting, you know, supposed to be recovering, you know, building, you know, new tissues, especially because your volume is lower. So even if you're eating at maintenance, you're kind of like in a baby surplus. Granted, if you're in a diet, if you're dieting, you know, you're not in a surplus. You're doing a little bit less, so you might even out, but you're not gonna, like, just, typically when you eat into a meet, you're gonna have, like, crazy, you're gonna peak so well, and you're gonna just hit PRs, and the, like, chances of you, if you're anabolic, like, so if you're gonna collect surplus, like, leading into the meet, the chances of you losing muscle mass during that phase, even if you're, let's say your taper is, like, shitty, and you're not hitting the mark as frequently as you should be during that week, you're still gonna be better off than if you were dieting. You have to just take, you know, what your old numbers and just throw them out. You're not going to hit them. So what I would recommend is, like, don't even compete. If you have to compete at a lower weight class, don't set a date and where you don't have, like, plenty of time. I'm talking, like, double the time that you would think for most people. Let's say you're like, you have 10 pounds to lose and you're 16 weeks out. You might be able to do it, but why not give yourself 20 weeks or 24 weeks? You know what I mean? Just get down a little bit below your weight class, and then that way you can kind of eat at maintenance or eat up a little bit into the meet. You control when you compete, so it makes no sense to, like, set a date and then, you know, be irresponsible and just eat a shit ton of food and not be able to do whatever. At my last meet, you know, I put 50 pounds on my total since nationals, and I was overweight. I weighed in, you know, I probably gained like 2 or 3 pounds from nationals, just of, like, pure body tissue. And then I said, screw it, I'm not going to cut. I mean, I could probably make it, but do I want to go through all of that? And even, like, I don't cut calories when I cut at all, so I don't want to suffer and go through all that just to try to make weight for a fun meet. I totally don't regret my decision. I hit a milestone 650 squat and had the best total of my, you know, career, and just very happy with my performance all around, and I didn't cut weight. I still beat my old Wilks score, and maybe, you know, I won't be as competitive on the big. Actually, I did look it up, and I am very similar placing wise, like if I were to have done nationals in the bigger weight class, but obviously, like, the top end of the higher weight class is going to be much higher, and I would have to gain much more weight to be remotely competitive. Whereas, like, for if I were to compete in the lower weight class, I place higher. But it's a fun meet. Like, who cares? There's only a couple meets out of the year that you should, if you want to just, you know, test yourself and push yourself, you know, push for nationals, plan for it like way out in advance. And make sure that you give yourself plenty of time to get your weight in check, and then that way you can eat into the meet. You can, you know, the numbers that you get in training are actually going to make sense when you're trying to figure out what your opener should be and things like that. But other than that, if you diet into a meet, it's going to be bad things. Your old number, you're going to be surprised in a bad way. You're going to hit way under what you thought you could hit, and it's just not a good thing. So give yourself time. You control when you compete. There's no point in putting yourself at a disadvantage by trying to, you know, hit a competition and diet into it. If you absolutely have to diet into a meet, maybe you just screwed up and you have to diet into a meet and you got to hit a qualifying total, I would recommend being very conservative, just to see where you're at for the day. Everything is gonna go by feel. And just take it, you know, take each attempt and each lift based on how you're feeling, and don't even, like, risk anything. You're just playing with fire whenever you decide to cut like that. And, you know, I hope you guys are able to take something away from this video. I just see too many people dieting into meets, and it's just so wrong. Like, if we could just not do that ever, everybody's going to be happier, and everybody's going to hit, you know, bigger numbers. So I don't recommend it. I have had people do it because, holidays come up, things happen, people have crazy schedules, and at the end of the day, I'm here to help them do what they want to do. I can only provide like recommendations and you know, I think a lot of times coaches forget that we work for them. Like, we help them achieve goals, providing our input. It's not us telling them what to do. As far as like what goals they want to achieve, because at the end of the day, it's their happiness. So anyway, I hope you guys were able to take something away from this video. I actually have a couple cool things coming up. I got a new fancy camera. If you guys are wondering why I don't use the camera right now, it's because these quick little audio videos allow me to put out information quickly. Just like driving or whatever it is that I'm doing, and I don't need to worry about my setup or where I'm at or setting up the camera and things like that. So I can just record them straight away off the iPhone, which has pretty good audio. And stay tuned for more informative powerlifting content. And thank you guys so much for listening. Drop a like if you did gain something from it, and I will talk to you in the next video. Thanks.